What is going on, y'all, man? Welcome back to another video. It is your boy FaTkaT, of course, bringing you another one, man. Hey, I got a special treat for you guys today, man. I am at this undisclosed location, but there's a bunch of gems inside of this building right here, man. So we are about to go inside, check it out, see what they got, man. They got both. There's a couple different cars in here, but both owners of those cars are both here. So we're about to go inside and check them all out, man. This is crazy, man. So let's go inside, check them out, man. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it, man. Let's go. All right, guys, so we are in here right now with Steve, I believe, correct? And he owns these three beautiful cars right here. One right there, one right here, one right there. We'll show you guys those two in a second here, but they belong to somebody else. But this is Steve here, and he was kind of showing me already, or telling me a little bit about this one. So what do we have here, Steve?
Well, this is a 2005 Panoz Esperante GTLM. The GTLM stands for GT Le Mans. Panoz is really heavy in the racing. They've been in the racing circuit for quite a few years. It's a wholly owned U.S. company. They're located down in northern Georgia. The founder, Don Panoz, just recently died last September.
Wow.
And so since Panoz was into racing, one of the things they had to do, they were at the time in 2005 when this car was built, they were racing in the endurance GT2 class, which they had to homologate so many cars. Homologation is where a manufacturer has to make so many cars in order to be allowed to race. And they
make so many cars street legal.
They street legal cars.
Right.
They're street legal versions of the racing cars.
Right.
And they were racing a GTLM Esperante at the time, and they, by the rules, manufacturers of under 1,000 vehicles had to make 28 cars for homologation. Manufacturers of over that number had to make something like 100, I believe. So like Porsche and those guys would have to make 100 cars to be able to race. So Panoz actually made 33 GTLMs for the street. 33
of these cars.
28 were roadsters, convertibles, and then 5 were coupes. This is actually one of the 5 coupes. The top is removable. They don't really want you to, but
that top right there is removable.
that top is actually removable.
Wow.
It's involved, and it's not just flipping a couple handles and off it goes. It's more involved in that, but it's one of those things they don't really want you to remove it.
Right.
But
you're telling me that what's sitting right here is one of 5 coupes.
This is one of 5
made
GTLM coupes that Panoz made in, from 2004 to 2010.
So I actually asked Roxanne, so because I was thinking, I was like, where were these made from? But this is actually an American company.
It's an American company. They're in Alpharetta, Georgia. A lot of people think this is a kit car. It's not a kit car. It's a manufactured car, just like Chevy manufactures cars and BMW. And
right.
So forth. And what that means is, manufactured cars, you basically choose the engine, the options for the car, and then the manufacturer builds the car for you. A kit car, you have to supply the engine and get that in the car yourself. So that's really, in simplistic terms, the difference between a manufacturer and a kit car.
Right.
So Panoz, of course, they weren't making their own engines at the time. They were sort of partnered with Ford. So for the GTLM and for the racing cars, they actually used Ford motors. They used special Ford 302s for racing. They were naturally aspirated. For the street cars, they actually turned to SVT, Ford's special vehicle team. And they acquired a number of the SVT motors from Ford. Now these are essentially the motors that were in the 2003-2004
Cobras.
Terminator Cobra.
I love that car.
So these are Terminator engines. They're very, very good engines. They can be built up to easily 600-700 horsepower
with no problems.
It's got forged, steel rods, and it's got a pretty strong bottom end. This one here, actually, one of the options from Panoz was a tune to get it to 500 horsepower. So it's got a smaller pulley driving the blower, and then it's got a little a different tune on it.
So that's 500 to the wheels?
No, it's 500 at the crank.
At the crank, okay.
Now, these engines actually were pretty conservatively rated, even by Ford. They actually put out more power than what was claimed.
Right.
But this one's rated at 500 at the crank. I have no idea what the wheel horsepower is. I'm guessing it's probably around 420 to 4.
You probably never put this on a dyno or anything like that, right?
No, dyno. I mean, the car's only got, I think, 8,900 miles on it.
Wow.
This one. So, found it actually from a guy down in Georgia. My brother-in-law found it, and we knew what it was, and you know, his daughters were getting out of college, I believe, and so he was looking to downsize, so he sold it, and I got it up here in Dayton. Finally, I was in North Carolina for a while, but I had it shipped up here, and it's in storage now. The car is all original. It's never been wrecked.
So original paint, original
paint. I just have the front bumper touched up. It had some minor road rash, just very minor in the front. So I had that taken care of. I guess they call it paint correction or whatever. But
right.
the rest of the car, I mean, it's all the original paint.
Nice.
And that's the interior of the car. It's a heavy-duty 6-speed transmission. And you'll notice the dash cluster up there. That's basically the same thing you see in a Cobra.
Right.
A Mustang, but
has the same gauges and everything, SVT?
Yep, same SVT gauges.
Carbon fiber in the center.
Recaro seats. The seats are leather and they're Recaro, and they're actually air conditioned. There's a lever down there that you can actually, the air conditioning will come up through the seat, so if it's hot. But the car, it weighs around 3179. The car is pretty much all aluminum and carbon fiber. You can see the interior, all the sills are carbon fiber.
Right.
All the interior is either leather or carbon fiber. All the body panels, except for the top, is carbon fiber as well. All the other body panels are aluminum.
Wow.
The deck lid on the trunk, I believe, is aluminum on top, and it may be fiberglass on the bottom. Same for the hood, but everything else is aluminum. So,
well, this is a beautiful car. I mean, the back does resemble kind of like a Mazda a little bit.
Yeah, it's got that. It's got that Mazda kind of RX-7
right.
A little bit. Some people have even told me, they say, "Oh, I thought it was a Ferrari." To me, it looks nothing like a Ferrari. But
nah, it definitely looks kind of like a Mazda, like you said, like a RX-7 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a unique car. I mean, even even though the chassis is Panos' own chassis, it does have the Cobra Terminator rear end and the rear section. Panos actually developed these bonded panels, not panels, but bonded beams underneath for part of the chassis, and it was a unique thing for them to do. They call it superformed plastic, basically, or I'm sorry, superformed aluminum, I think is what it is, but it's just a unique chassis that saves weight, and it's very strong.
It's really nice, man. I'm going to get some beauty shots real quick, and then we can move on to the next one. just moved on from that car, so now we're getting ready to check out this one. Unfortunately, it has, you know, some things on it, so we're not going to take it all the way off. But what do we have under here, Steve?
Well, this is a 1994 Ferrari 348 TB Challenge. So Ferrari started making the 348, I believe, in the early 90s, and they in 93 over in Europe they began what's called a Challenge Series, which is a special race series just for these cars, the 348. But they didn't have it here in the States. But it was so successful in 93 over in Europe that in 94 they decided to bring it to the States. And they had the Challenge Series at various racetracks around the US. And for the 1994 model year, Ferrari decided to make all the 348 TBs, which is the hardtop version, a challenge version. Now what that means is challenge is Ferrari's race model. Anytime you see a Ferrari and it says challenge on it, that's the car that's destined for the racetrack. Now the early challenge cars, all the 348s and a handful of the 355 challenge cars were actually street legal. After that, they weren't. None of the challenge series, because they were essentially race cars.
So this is one of the earlier models that was street legal.
This is the first Challenge Series car, and it's street legal. This one doesn't have all the race kit installed on it. Now, I have all the race parts, and when an owner would buy one of these cars in 94, they had the option of buying the full, what's called the Challenge kit. And that would come with a special roll bar, you know, safety cage, fire extinguisher, engine kill switch, and a bunch of other parts. So I was lucky enough when I found this car that the original owner actually had those parts still in boxes, and that's extremely rare.
In boxes, wow.
But Ferrari only made, for the hardtop 348 challenges, they only made 32. And so this is one of 32 factory challenge cars. They did make 13 348 TS models. The TS is basically a soft, has removable roof panels, so it's not a hard top. They made 13 of those for a total of 45, but they only made 32 of the hard top challenge cars. Now what Ferrari did do for the challenge cars to distinguish them from regular 348s of years past is they did do some of the work to make it easier to convert the car to race a race car. And what they did was they pre-welded the roll bar cage mounts in the floor. Ferrari did that at the factory. Prior to 94, all that work had to be done by a dealer or somebody else that knew what they were doing to get the car certified to race. So so they did do some of the work. There's some discussion on what else Ferrari endowed the cars with. Some say that the front and rear bumpers were lighter than normal, but I'm not sure. I mean, I think they're pretty light to begin with. The challenge cars did come with a sport type muffler, which I think was an option for the other cars, but it's a lot louder, a little bit freer flowing. But these cars didn't have a lot of horsepower back in that era. I mean, 94, you know, if you look at that era, these cars actually had 300.
Which was a lot back then.
Which was, you know, a significant amount. I mean, it's a pretty spirited car. The European versions actually got 320 horsepower because of a redesign of the intake manifold. The plenum was a little higher, and you can tell when you look at the European motor, which is an H series motor. These are G series motors. But this car, I think it's got 27,000 miles on it. It's like new, an original paint, never been touched up. This is actually the luggage compartment. It's not big enough to put golf clubs in, so unfortunately I can't open it right now. But,
It's okay.
but anyway,
But man,
it's a solid. Back then they didn't have, at least for these cars, they didn't have three-stage paint. This is just a simple single-stage paint, but it is bright red.
Ferrari red,
Take
that's
this
for sure.
outside, it's like, wow, this is red. Yeah, those tires, that's another thing. Those tires need to be replaced. Those are actually, I think, the original tires in the car.
Original
so that's
tires.
a 94.
Wow.
Yeah,
What are these? Continental, huh?
I don't know. They're a
Bridgestone.
ZR rated tire. They may actually, it may have been replaced back in the late 90s. I think they were replaced in the late 90s, but this is only the second tire that's been on the car.
Wow. This is extremely beautiful, man.
It's got inlets for the radiator because it's rear engine. The radiators on one side, and then it's got the well cooler on the other side. I think the well cooler's on this side.
Classic
actually.
90 designed.
Yeah,
Ferrari.
the 355 is similar. It doesn't have these straights here. It's got more of a scallop above and below.
I think
355.
a lot of people don't, I mean, they only associate this design right here with, I'm sorry, they only associate this design here with like the Testarossa. But they don't realize that.
A lot of people mistake this car for
Right.
a Testarossa, and it's really the baby. This is the 8-cylinder. The Testarossa is the 12-cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was made about the same time, and so a lot of people that have seen this car have confused it with the Testarossa.
Because of that.
And yes, it's mainly because of this. But you know, Testarossa, if you put the two side by side, Testarossa is
a lot wider,
it's
right?
wider as well, but. You have to correct them.
This is beautiful.
That's the inlets for the.
Oh wow.
There's the inlets, and you know, Ferrari's kept a lot of the same design themes over the years. For you know, I guess you can only place the inlets in so many places
right.
since it's a rear-engine car. But I think the 348 got a lot of flack.
Is this one locked? Probably.
Yeah, I think it's locked. I don't have a key for
Okay,
it.
that's fine. Just so you guys know, by the way, that's a gated. What is this? A 6-speed? 5-speed.
5-speed.
So gated
5-speed.
shifter, 5-speed. So you don't see that anymore, too often anymore. Wow, but this is a beautiful car, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's. If I'd have known, I guess I could have.
No, it's okay.
Well, I've got this stuff arranged here, because otherwise I won't be able to get my other car.
No, that's fine. By the way, all these parts on here are for the other car that's over there. We'll show you in a second, but that's what all these are on here. So we're not going to take everything off and then have to worry about putting everything back on. But this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful car. Man. Only how many you said? 32?
For the factory challenge cars, for the hardtop, yeah, they made 32.
32. Wow.
Essentially,
Beautiful.
all the 348 hardtops they made in '94 were challenge cars,
Okay.
but they only made 32.
Let's move on to the one in here. I mean, I hear you got, other cars in other locations, but
Yeah, well, I've got them scattered around because
Right.
I need a big warehouse type.
Right.
place, but-
You need a big drug house.
That's Roxana, by the way. We're going to check out her cars in a minute as well, so make sure you guys stay tuned to that.
Mazda, it's also known as an FD.
Right, FD. So 93 RX-7 Mazda FD. This car was made super popular back in the late 90s when obviously Fast and the Furious came out.
Well, the only bad thing on this car right now is it doesn't have a rear bumper because it's out to have a paint correction done on the right side where the factory emblems that say Mazda RX-7 go, because one of the legs was broken off, I think the RX-7, and the glue, the contact cement, whatever they used, it just messed up the paint in that area. So I'm having a a guy that is really good. He's blending that area back into the original paint.
Oh,
this is all the original paint.
This car has a sunroof.
Well, it's a touring model. All the
Wow.
touring models have sunroofs. At least for '93. They Mazda imported quite a few of these cars from '93 through '95. The '93 is the most common. Year. I think altogether they imported something like 13,800 cars or 500 cars. This
Wow.
one, I've tried to keep it as close to stock, but it's had some upgrades. Intercooler being one. That's an M2 medium intercooler. This does have the sequentially operated twin turbos, but they're not factory. These are actually B&R Stage 3 turbos.
Wow.
They're more reliable, maybe a little bit more airflow. I'm running about 17 pounds of boost, which is my limit because I'm not running any kind of water or alcohol injection for cooling.
But I mean, you could get that way up if you really want to.
Oh yeah, there's guys with, now this is a twin rotor. There's guys with twin rotors that's probably pushing 500 horsepower or even more. So Mazda also made 3-rotor motors that they put in some of their Japanese only cars, sedans. Yeah, not sports cars, at least not the RX-7. But that's a kind of a not so uncommon swap, is to take a 3-rotor from some of those Japanese sedans and stuff them in an RX-7. And those things can make 700 horsepower.
Wow, man, this is a beautiful car, man. RX-7.
This one is. I've tried to keep it, like I said, as close to stock as possible, but with a lot of reliability mods.
Right.
That's one thing you'll hear a lot with an RX-7 is reliability. These cars were not potentially, if they were not taken care of correctly, they were not the most reliable cars for a number of reasons. The motors get really hot, and you got to make sure you got the right cooling. So one of the first things you want to do is get rid of the factory radiator and use a solid, metal Koyo or something radiator. Then there's a bunch of other mods. Get rid of the catalytic converter, or get a high flow cat.
Right.
The factory catalytic converter would break down typically, and then your engine's gone.
I had a friend who actually who had one. He still has it actually, but I knew him back in Germany when I was there. He had one, a black one, and he came home one day and his car got so hot, out of his exhaust you just see it glowing. Out of the exhaust. It was like, whoa.
I've seen RX-7s that have gotten so hot you can actually see the manifold down there glow.
Right.
That's not good.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, hey man, your car is like on fire.
I've seen the exhaust, at least the downpipe portion get almost glowing red, but yeah, that's not good. So you want to keep the engine as cool as possible. You want to give it plenty of airflow. A lot of guys have modified hoods with louvers that let the heat out. I just typically, as soon as I get where I'm going, raise the hood. And a lot of guys will remove this, but
trying to get as maximum airflow as possible.
I think this helps protect the paint from the heat as well. And the key is to keep your engine as cool as possible. So there's a lot of little tricks to that, this car, some of the other reliability things, got a torque brace on the motor.
I've seen that.
And I've got a differential brace on it.
This thing is a beauty.
This one's probably close to, I'd say, probably somewhere between 380 and 400 at the wheels. But the car only weighs 2,800 pounds.
Exactly.
And it's pretty quick.
You check out the interior?
Sure. So one thing on these cars,
this thing is clean.
The interior is usually the first thing to go.
Right.
The era that these cars were made in the 90s, one of the things that these cars would suffer from was gooey interior plastics. After so many years, the sun and especially in hot climates, it would basically, the coating that the factory used on the plastics would turn to almost like a sticky tape type of thing. So some of the plastics in this car has been replaced because of that. Most of the door plastics on the side, the center console plastics, those have all been replaced. But I've retained, you know, it's got the original leather seats, wheel.
You know what I like about this one? How it's almost still, even though you say you replace some parts, but it still almost looks completely original. So there's a lot of people that had these cars, and for whatever reason, they paint like the doors, you know what I'm saying, like the door seals. They paint like the you know, the dash, and it's like, why do you do that?
Yeah, I've tried to keep this car as original as I can, but at the same time improve it, mostly for reliability where it needed to be improved. The only gauges you'll see on this car, I mean, some people have 12 gauges, you know, for everything, you know. And I realize, you know, like the water temperature gauge probably isn't the most reliable, but, you know, it works as long as you keep an eye on everything. So, you know, I've got a air fuel wide band sensor gauge, and I've got a boost gauge, and that's really the only thing I've got as far as not stock on the inside. I do have my controller, FC Commander, to tune the car and to monitor the
I seen the tune over there.
Yeah, it's in a little, actually it's a cell phone holder that I just got it slid. It's not bolted, it's just slid.
He's talking about the tuner over there, guys.
Yeah, it's just kind of on the top of the glove box, so it's you can just easily pull it out. I don't like to drill holes where holes shouldn't be, and
I understand that.
But
this
like
is a beautiful example.
Missing. I took off the fuel filler lid because that's what the paint correction I'm having where the emblems are in the bumper. I gave that to the guy
so you can match it perfectly.
So he can, because he needed a small part that wasn't, you know, the size of the bumper. He's got to have one of those digital spectrometer type things where he can actually measure the paint.
Nice.
So he's using that, but so this is all factory, everything you see there, so it's in really nice shape. It's never been in an accident, as you can see.
Wow.
But there is a couple foam pieces that go like here that is right underneath the bumper. I've taken those off, but yeah,
this is a beautiful example. I mean, you cannot ask for anything.
It's all original,
better than this.
And that's, you know, the paint's all original. A lot of people now the rare version of the RX-7 is the R1 model for '93, and that model actually, you saw the actual strut brace and the engine compartment. Those came on the R1s.
Okay.
The one I have actually came off an R1 and actually improves the handling a little bit.
Right.
They had a little bit different valving for the shocks. They actually had the Touring RX-7s had a single engine oil cooler.
Okay.
The R1s actually had two. This car has two. I've got two R1 oil coolers on this car.
Oh, nice.
But that's what's right in here. You can feel the fins on both sides. So it's got that. And that adds to the reliability, like I said. So there's been a lot of reliability changes. I've deleted the air pump, which actually is this big thing that's set right over in here. So that's been deleted. The factory had a plastic air separation tank, which is part of the radiator system, and those were notorious for breaking. So some people will use a metal AST. I just deleted it. I don't think it's necessary. But
well, this is a beautiful example. I appreciate your time because he didn't even know that I was going to be up here, you know, I came up here to speak to Roxana and see her cars, and then he showed up. And, you know, he took his time to show me these cars, man. So I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to shake your hand on camera, just to let you know that I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But beautiful cars here, and he has more scattered around, as you guys heard him say. But But yeah, that, I mean, this is great, man. That, I mean, rare, 1 of 5, 1 of 32, and then you know, then obviously the FD Mazda.
Yes, I think there's about around 5,000 of these left.
Right.
That's a 13,800 or 500.
I mean,
they brought into the U.S. from 93 to 95. If you track those of, there's some folks out there that can actually track the models through the
VIN numbers,
state registration system for license plates, but.
But even though there's a lot more of these, I mean, how many are unmolested, for lack of a better word?
Yeah,
unmodified.
Of the 5,000, I mean, I'm just guessing, probably more than half are not in very good shape, or
exactly,
not really drivable, or they've just, you know, rusted.
Or like I said, or just heavily modified, which is, you know, okay, but like I said, you're not going to find many that's in this condition. That's not, you know, that's, again, the modifications are for reliability more than, you know, personal liking, I guess.
Yeah, it's got the original brakes. Actually, the factory Mazda calipers are very, very good.
Right.
I think. It does have aftermarket rotors, and I did change it's got coilovers, basically, which helps, you know, if you're going to improve the suspension. But the factory coilovers are actually pretty good.
Right.
I had a problem with mine where I couldn't get, one side was higher than the other, and it's like it was almost impossible to adjust that out.
Right.
So I actually got rid of those. Actually, I still have them, but replaced them.
Right.
With probably one of the better coilover systems. It's Erlens, I think it's pronounced, the Swedish coilovers. The DFV, those are very good. We've got infinite adjustability, and I think I've got this pretty well dialed in now. But I will say this: nothing handles like an RX-7. I've driven a lot of cars, and these things they're so light and nimble. And once you get them dialed in,
yeah, I've driven my friends that they had, and I mean, you're right. I mean, nothing handles like this. Absolutely right. Again, guys, I want to say thank you to Steve, man. He, you know, again, didn't even know I was here, so he just took his time out of nowhere, off the whim, and showed me his cars. So yeah, I can't thank him enough. Like I said, super rare cars here. We're getting ready to look at Roxanne's cars in a little bit. This is actually what I came here for. But again, I can't thank him enough for actually taking the time to show me. So rare cars here. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the other ones. For the other 2 cars we're getting ready to see right now, Roxanne's cars. Those are some pretty dope cars as well, man. So anyway, other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. As you guys know, my boy FaTkaT, man. We'll see you guys on the next one, man. Later.